Welcome to Live from the Heart podcast. My name is Anne-Claire Meret. I help beautiful beings feeling empowered to create their lives. I coach, teach, create programs, write books, among other things, and I love it. It took me years of healing and coaching, but I finally found a way back to my heart. Today I thrive and help people thrive too. Everything is happening faster and faster. I feel we are being supported in so many ways. I know we can thrive on a collective level. If you want to create from your heart, you're in the right place. Welcome for another episode. This time I am delighted to welcome Christian Kasper, which is my partner. Welcome, Christian.
Thank you for having me, my love.
I'm so happy you accepted to do another episode together. First of all, I love you so much, and I'm so very grateful that you're in my life, and you make my life so much better. Together, we do a lot of magic every day, and I'm super happy to share your life. You are such a grounded person for me, and you bring me a lot of peace because you have in you something very magical, which is, in French, I would say like a rock, but I'm not sure it works in English. It's like a stone, like you are so very grounded, and you bring me a lot of calmness in my nervous system. You have this superpower that you use with people around you, and it's pretty much magical. And you've had quite a year because you've been studying a lot. You've had a lot of transformation, and you're here to share who you are and a little bit of your wisdom with the people listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know what I would like to do? I would like to show my gratitude through a big hug, but it's not possible right now because we are, like, how many kilometers are in between us right now?
Pretty far.
Yeah, I'm in the Netherlands right now and you're in Costa Rica, but I love you as well. And you're also magic and you bring so much joy and wisdom and enrichment into my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please introduce yourself and share with the world what it is that you do?
Yeah, so this is always a really good question, right? I think to put it really simple way, and also probably what people will now expect to hear is what kind of role I have in life. And I mean, I have many different roles. I'm a son, I'm a partner, I'm a friend, but I'm also a coach and a teacher. A teacher for people who want to become breathwork facilitators. I co-founded together with two dear friends a collective called the Spirit of Breath Collective. And here we are training people to become breathwork facilitators, but we are also doing some education around breathwork and everything that is related to our breath. And then I'm also a coach, and yeah, coaching is such a wide field, right? You can be a sports coach, you can be a life coach, you can be a nutritionist coach. I would put myself into the bucket of being a life coach, but this is still a really wide field.
Yes. Not only a life coach, but really like a deep soul searching coach.
Yeah, I think the whole life coaching, you basically serve everything that is between having a therapist and not having a therapist. Like there are a lot of people who don't have a therapist, and sometimes even sometimes a coach can be there really helpful in this segment. And you have life coaches who are really focused on bringing a person from point A to point B. You have, for example, a lot of life business coaches / business coaches. And then you also have a different spectrum of coaches where I more see myself right now, which is like, I'm just trying to enable something really natural in the people that just wants to come through them. I don't see myself anymore as a coach that necessarily brings one person to one from point A to point B, even though this will happen, but it doesn't happen in such a structured way. We oftentimes don't know the destination. And then when we open up, it's just flowing into the right destination.
Yeah. Why do you enjoy it?
there are two things that are coming up. One is I really enjoy working with people one-on-one in a really intimate setting. How do you say? Intimacy? Intimate setting, yeah. And just be present with them, listening to them, following their string of thoughts and trying to bring them deeper and deeper into their own awareness. This is what I really enjoy. I think the best moments in coaching are when you talk to someone, when you coaching someone and you suddenly notice how they're connecting to something that is really, really deep inside of them that they haven't really acknowledged before. And this will then create either like an aha moment or a feeling of deep connection or a feeling of, oh, there's something is being touched that they haven't touched before.
Yeah, some depth.
That's what I really, really enjoy. This is one thing that I really enjoy. And the other thing is just the whole knowledge space that we are inside coaching, psychology, especially depth psychology. This is one of my big interests.
Well,
And
I
I
do
can
need
well
to
use it
share
in here.
that you're always reading stuff about Carl Jung and listening to podcasts with super nerdy people. So I do want to share that about your life. And when I show up in the kitchen and you're cooking, you're listening to something super nerdy.
Like a fairy tale trying to be interpreted by Jungian analyst. Yeah, something like this. I enjoy.
Well, it's really fun to share your life.
Yeah, I think it's. I think this curiosity is. It's already coming from an early age. Like this curiosity to something that's not really visible. I'm pretty sure this is something that is rooted. The seeds are set in my childhood because I grew up, as you know, in a family which was quite open to spiritual practices, to esoteric practices, and even to occultic practices. For example, using the how do you call it, the Ouija board?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. To talk
Yeah,
with the spirits.
to talk to the spirits, exactly. So things like this were happening in my childhood around me. Not that I was practicing or that I was participating in it, but I think they did something with me. Not the spirits, but just seeing this kind of activities and this openness around me. It triggered a curiosity, and I never got disconnected from curiosity. And I think this is an innate quality that we all have: curiosity. And sometimes we lose it. Sometimes we lose the connection. But I don't have the feeling that this was really happening to me. Maybe there were phases in my life where I was not so connected to my curiosity and life seemed a bit blank in these phases, but it was never for a long time. It
Yeah.
was always easy to get back to curiosity for me. As soon as there was space, I was back into curiosity.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that maybe the curiosity was less present because you were more busy, like
Yeah,
in
right. Yeah.
studying and then going into the corporate world for a while.
Yeah.
And then the busyness then makes you then having the wish in the weekend maybe to have more entertainment and then going
Yeah.
back to busyness again. But now
Yeah.
life is different. So
Yeah.
since you've changed your life, it's a totally new chapter since already quite many years, because you became a breathwork facilitator and then a breathwork teacher, and you've studied so many different healing modalities so that you can help people really meet themselves. Uh, did you imagine that you would follow this path one day?
Um, I'm not sure. I don't. I sometimes think yes, and sometimes I think no. There were phases where I noticed that there was a strong curiosity towards this. For example, I remember when I started to study, I had a girlfriend who was studying psychology, and I was fully into her study, but not into my study so much. Even though my study actually also brought me a lot of kind of a fulfillment. I wouldn't say it was anything boring. It was far from boring, I would say. It also sparked interest in me. Um, but I don't know. I don't think I was. I think I was not believing so much into myself that I was able to do the level of coaching, or however you want to call it, what we are doing right now.
Like legitimacy to help others feel better.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was always I was crossing a couple of times the path of working in the care system, the health system, but it never really fulfilled me. It was not the right place for me in the system, um, and not the right position, not the right role. The role that I actually was craving for and didn't know back then was the role that I'm occupying now.
Yeah. Well, just before we started the recording, we were talking just together about someone that you know who's been into the healthcare system right now because she's having some trouble with her mental health, and that the system is not having solution for what she's experiencing
Yeah,
except for drugs. And
yeah,
what we have noticed together is that there are so many other solutions. They're just not yet mainstream and not yet available for everyone. It's just such a pity. And in your research and in the choices that you've made for your learnings, you have chosen holistic approaches, more
mm,
of mind, body, and soul approaches
yeah,
all of the time.
yeah,
Can you tell us
exactly.
about that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I started with, I think one important part of work that I'm doing is breathwork, and breathwork was for me such a powerful practice because through breathwork I became more aware of my own body, about all the sensation, on how my body is actually communicating to me. I suddenly had a feeling or a sense of what my psyche or my soul or my intuition, however you want to call it, wants from me. Um, and this opened me up to exploring more the breath and connecting to my body more and more. And I believe that the psyche is talking through the body. And one example that I like to mention is when I quit my corporate job almost 2 years ago now. I had to go back to the office because I had to pick up my stuff, my box. And I was going into this office and I felt a constriction in my body so strong. And I was not aware of this feeling before because probably I was, I was used to it. I was going with this feeling every day to work. But then suddenly, because I was in this transition, my mind knew that I'm going into the office just to pick up the box. But my body, my nervous system didn't understand that. There was a constriction in my body suddenly. So I think this is a good example on how our body or our body is communicating to us. So yeah, body is an important part of my personal development, but also the way that I'm working with my clients, and obviously also in this breathwork facilitator training that we're offering. And then I also don't want to bypass the mind. I think oftentimes what we see is that it's really easy to go into the extremes. If you, for example, just look at trends, there's then one trend highlighted. It's the one extreme, and then suddenly it's the other extreme, the opposite side. And I can see that is also happening right now in our field, that we completely neglect, for example, talking therapy, or that there's at least a stream of people who neglect talking therapy. But I think they're still a really powerful tool for us because through words and through inquiry, we can actually step into our, not only into our body, but into our subconscious and get answers through symbol, through dreams, for example, but also just by asking questions,
Yeah.
asking the questions that bring you deeper and deeper into what was happening in your life, and how did this shift you in your life? How do you perceive yourself? What do you feel, and how do you interpret the world around you? This already gives so many clues on what is actually happening for you and how to shift it. So it's not only body, it's also the mind and the psyche.
Yeah. Well, this is, I think, my favorite thing in the world: asking the right questions,
Yeah,
so that the brain can start having different answers, and then we shift the thoughts, because we usually have 95% of the same thought that we had yesterday and the day before and the day before
Yeah,
that.
right.
And where our thoughts were created was just the consequence of our previous environments. But
Yeah,
today we are different, and we have different environments and different opportunities. And if we cannot renew the thoughts, then we're stuck in a loop.
yeah,
So
right.
this is
Yeah.
such an
And
exciting.
I also share this passion with you about asking questions. And what I really love about the word itself already, there's a crest in it. Question, there's a crest in it. And if you ask a good question, you will go on a quest into yourself to find the answers.
Wow, this is
And
exciting.
yeah, isn't it? I think it's really exciting. Maybe it's just because we are nerds, but
What are your
I think
favorite
it is.
questions to go deeper? You know, like that you ask yourself, or that you see yourself asking regularly to your clients. What are your favorite questions?
Okay, so this is a difficult one because I try to not have like the same questions that I ask all the time, because I think the context is really important, that we ask a question. Sometimes the question can land and then other times not. But there are some good examples I think that I can share. And one of them is, let's say you want to find out what you want to do with your life. You could ask yourself, what do I want to do in my life? Right? This would be one way of asking this question. But there's also many different other ways of asking the question. And I like instead to ask, what kind of life wants to be brought through me? Because this puts you a bit out of the controlling seat, and you have to think on the meta level of what your ego maybe wants to do. You think more about, okay, what does life want from me? And I think this is a really powerful question. I love this question.
I love it. I love it
Yeah.
because I can see that when you ask this question, there is the seriousness in me that says, I need to succeed in a certain way.
Yeah.
And then there is the fun part of me which says, oh, but life wants you to birth that, like going on TikTok because it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
part of me which is resisting it, like, no, you need to build like this persona that you're very serious and taken seriously by the world. And this is, yeah, and we cannot make any mistake when we follow life which is flowing through us, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think this kind of good questions, they help us to see the world in a different way than we normally do in our default mode network.
Yeah.
It is giving a twist, and then we look at from a different perspective, and then suddenly we see something that we haven't seen before.
Another one?
Oh, another one. I really love asking about meaning of, for example, specific symptoms. What kind of meaning do you give it? What's the meaning behind it? Because everyone has to think about it for a bit. There's an inquiry starting inside of the person who receives the question. This is a really helpful question for me. Um, Another question that I really like is one is like, how do you feel? And oftentimes what you receive from people is not really a description of a feeling. It is instead an interpretation of a situation already. And then asking them, I'm telling them that this is not a feeling, but they are rationalizing already their feeling at this moment. And through this inquiry, we can actually bring them back into their body and to the emotions that are in the body, instead of interpreting the situation. For example, I could say, if you ask me, how do you feel? I could say, in certain situations, I could say, I feel disrespected, but disrespected is not a feeling, right? How does a person feel when they're disrespected? This would be then the question that I would ask you. And I think this is a good question because it's in a wide context and it connects you to the emotions.
Oh, this is so important what you just shared, because we're so prompt to just jump into judgments and to interpret with our filters, and then we just tell ourselves a story, and then we
Yeah,
stay
exactly.
attached to
This
the
is the
story.
story. Yeah, yeah. Even though there are probably a million other reasons why someone maybe acted in a certain way that triggered inside of you this interpretation of, oh, I feel disrespected.
Yeah. Wow. Aren't we complicated humans?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think the world could benefit from today? Because you've studied a lot of things regarding trauma, and I feel that we are highly traumatized society for many reasons, individually and collectively. So then we stepped into some kind of reaction modes instead of being creative with life. What do you think we could change to for that more people would be stepping into more creative mode and less reactive?
That's a good question. It's difficult to answer this kind of question and without generalizing too much. But I can tell what was really helping me in my life. And this is then also spiraling back to the beginning of our conversation where I already mentioned curiosity. I think it's really important that we stay curious and not only curious about technology or about, I don't know what, but also curious about ourselves. But for this, we need safety. So I think one reason why people get disconnected from curiosity is because it's not safe to ask questions. It's not safe to go into their own experience because there might be something painful coming up for them if they inquire too deeply. So I think safety and curiosity is super, super important to evolve as a human being, which carries a lot of wisdom and is not just life is not just spiraling down, right? It should be like we enrich our lives more and more. Every day we learn more and more. We get wiser and wiser. But if you don't have the curiosity, is it leading this way? It seems like for me, it's leading actually the opposite way of actually disconnecting from everything else.
Yeah. How do we do when we have been told maybe many, many, many times that being curious is not a good thing?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, when you're a kid and you ask a lot of
Yeah.
questions, and then your parents start
How
saying,
to deal
"Stop
with
asking
it, you mean?
questions."
Yeah.
How do you shift this inside of you? Shift this belief that it's a wrong thing and that you're going to be disturbing people around you?
I think first of all, there has to be some kind of prompting, which is, in my opinion, also looking at depth psychology, it's coming from the psyche, prompting from the psyche. And this can, for example, come through into our consciousness by feeling numb in this world, by seeing only gray in this world, by not feeling alive, not being excited about life anymore. And this could be already a symptom, a prompt for you to inquire and to create awareness of, oh, actually, there's not so much curiosity. And then inquiring more, why is there no curiosity in my life? And sharpening your senses maybe for the tiniest sparks of curiosity that you can find in your day-to-day life. And then taking the sparks and diving deeper and deeper and deeper so that you can slowly open up again to curiosity.
Is there also a fear to fall into the rabbit hole and the fear of uncertainty and where it will lead us if we follow the curiosity?
Well, I mean, it can become maybe at some point like some kind of obsession that you don't do anything else anymore. It's maybe also not the best way to do things. I think if you just put your heads into the books, and this could be that curiosity looks like this for you, right? You just that you read, and you don't do anything else, but then you also miss out on a lot of other things. And it's also a really limited way of curiosity, a really focused way of curiosity. I think open curiosity looks different. Open curiosity is more like what you see in the child. The child is curious about everything. It's like, and it's not asking, it's exploring. It's not directly asking questions. It's not asking questions to find out something specific. It's asking questions just to open up more and more. Oftentimes we have assumptions, and then we try to get through questions to this assumption. Then there's a phase of curiosity, but it's really limited.
Yeah. And I can imagine also that a child is also experiencing with all its senses. And it's
Yeah,
not only
right. Yeah.
from the brain, it's also from the heart, it's also from the touch, from the smell, from the taste, and
Yeah.
from all.
Yeah, I think we become really one-sided human beings if we just focus on one thing and we put everything into it. I think there's more to life.
Yeah. What else would you like to share about maybe soul searching or soul knowing? Because this is what your work is really about.
Yeah, the soul is knowing. Yeah, this is what I focus most of the time when we do my research around topics, and was for most of the time actually one of my topics that I was most interested in without really knowing it. As a child, I was really curious about my dreams, and this led me into the path of keeping this mystery and exploring more and more, trying to understand more. And now in the last few years, it even increased even more by actually connecting to my own soul. The soul is just a different word for psyche. So we could also call it the psyche, the psychology of the human being. I like to call it the soul because there's still a bit more mystery in it. And I think it's important to keep some mystery inside of the soul, inside of the psyche, because otherwise, we think we know everything, but there's actually so much more that we don't know. And there are also many things that we actually can't put into words. And I think soul is about that, things that we actually can't put into words properly. We can maybe put things like labels to it, but it will never really describe our experience of life, of what we're actually experiencing in the inside. The soul is, it's perceiving the life inside of yourself, on how the world outside of you is resonating inside of you, how your soul is reacting to it, but also figuring out what soul wants from you, what soul wants from this incarnation. I think this is a really deep quest that we are all in, and there's so many layers. I think it will never get boring if you are on the soul quest of connecting to your soul. There will be always new layers. And also things that will come unexpected when you listen to soul, because oftentimes we have like a clear picture of where we want to be. But if we then open up to soul, we suddenly see the next steps in front of us, but we haven't really considered the steps before because we are maybe not aware of them at all. Or maybe we think, oh, they don't make sense here. But they actually make sense. And if we takes a step, the next step will appear and the next step will appear. And I'm pretty sure it will lead where you want to be in life. At least for me so far, this is what was happening. I'm where my soul wanted to be.
It's such
Like
a
having
great
this
quest.
freedom, having this flexibility. Just having a rich life full of many different facets that soul wants to experience.
What happens when we don't listen?
I think it can create many conflicts inside of us. There's this idea of the daemon that is coming from the muse of air from Plato. He was already talking about that. And the daemon is like an imprint that you come to world, and the daemon will always try to get your attention. And it is part of soul. Sometimes people say it is the soul. It will always try to get into your attention and gets better and better in getting your attention. And this not always comes in nice ways. Sometimes it comes through depression. Sometimes it comes through a midlife crisis, or through a burnout, or through a health crisis, to finally get your attention. No, not fun.
But eventually, do you think we can avoid it by, choosing, like really making a choice with the free will to walk the path, to meet the soul, instead of waiting for it to try to meet us?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it will help us to avoid that our soul has to get our attention through tools like health crisis or burnout or depression and so on. But I think it's also really easy with our logical minds to confuse what soul has to say and what ego wants to say. It can easily happen that we think like, oh, this is actually what I have to do. And then a couple of years noticing like, oh no, this was actually not soul. This was my ego talking and trying to, I don't know, creating safety or doing something else. I don't know what the agenda was here for the ego.
How do you make the difference?
Yeah. How do you make the difference? I think there are many different ways to become more aware of how soul is talking to you. In my personal experience, if I give myself space, there will be kind of a knowing coming through me. I know what I have to do next. And this is not a knowing that is rationalized in any way, that I haven't thought about and thinking like, okay, I will do this and this, so I have to take this step. Yes, I have to take this step. No, it's not coming like this. It's more coming. So oftentimes suddenly. This is one way of how our soul is communicating to us. Another way is through dreams. And then in our awake state, we have to encrypt the dreams to understand them. Then obviously it's a big gray zone of how you interpret it, right? It's really helpful to actually have someone else with you who can also shine a light on it,
Like
because it's
you
really easy
for
to
me.
put everything into positive terms. When I, for example, do my own dream interpretations, it's hard for me. It always looks really positive, but what the dream tells you is maybe also sometimes a criticism towards you. So it's really helpful to have someone there who can also shine the light on that. Yeah, I think these are two ways on how soul is communicating. The other one is also through bodily symptoms, like through tension in the body. You enter the office and you suddenly feel tension.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you should just say, oh, this is my soul talking. It can be quickly a bypass. Maybe there's a fear that you can actually overcome inside of this context. Maybe a fear that you should overcome, that your soul wants you to overcome so that you can actually grow and evolve as a human being. So it's not always so easy. That's why I think it's really important to have someone else who can talk to you and who has a different perspective.
Yeah, I agree. We cannot see in the corners, because if we're not used
Yeah.
to search, even when we're used to search, it's super important to have someone else outside of us that like kind of, give us a mirror that we can look at ourselves with a different angle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add?
Thank you so much. No, not much to add. Besides of, I actually have right now a new offer, which is the Soul's Knowing. And this is a 6 weeks program where I guide individuals. It's a one-on-one setting through different qualities that if we embrace them, we will automatically open up to whatever soul is. And this is something that I'm right now really excited about it. And otherwise, I don't have much more to share at this moment.
Okay. This is wonderful to have you here and sharing everything that you've been working on and diving deeper into. It's really wonderful to share with you life because you're such a curious and fascinating person. So I'd like people to know it. And just maybe for a bit of context, we live together in Costa Rica. You work online and you work in English and in German because you're from Germany.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Right now I'm in the Netherlands, but normally I'm in Costa Rica. Like 10 out of 12 months I'm in Costa Rica with you.
For now, because next year we're
For
moving
now, next
again.
year
New
moving to
chapter again.
Bali. Yeah, this will be an exciting one.
How can people reach out to you if they want to meet you, talk to you, dive deeper with you?
Yeah, so right now I would say the best way to also get some content from my side, to see some content, is via my newsletter. I share that on an almost weekly basis, news from my side, some thoughts, but also things that I'm watching or listening to or reading, which is all related to the topics that we were talking about. So if people are interested in that, then for sure the newsletter would be a good place. My website anyway is a good place to reach out to me. I also have Instagram, and I will also be more active again on Instagram. Right now I'm not active on Instagram, but I have an Instagram account. I'm also there from time to time to check my messages. So people should not hesitate to write me via Instagram. I'm there as well.
Okay. And I will put your links so that people can easily find you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward for more episodes together because it's always open
Yes.
for you. And whatever you want to talk about, we'll make space for that.
I love these conversations with you. Any conversation is great. But I also really like these focused ones where we just sit down and talk about this kind of topics.
Yeah. I think we'll just
great.
record our life at home and that's it.
Oh yeah, right. We can also do that.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you too. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your presence. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it, like it, save it. You can follow me and connect with me via social media and my website, simply with my name, Anne-Claire Méret. See you soon with more content from the heart.